tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position.
Extraordinary, extraordinary. Well, let's go over straight away now to Republican Overseas Representative Erol Morkoç. Hi, Erol. Are you back in Britain?
No, still
oh
here.
Oh my God, you're still recovering.
I actually might end up getting a surgery now. It's getting worse.
Oh my God, you're stuck in your home country, California. California could be worse, mate. Could be worse.
Yeah, it is pretty sunny, as you can see.
Yeah, thank you for joining. It's not sunny here. Thank you for joining us. Well, we've just learned, I mean, obviously you know what we want to talk about, those extraordinary scenes. We just had your colleague Greg Swenson on it. He was as shocked and as stunned as we were, as everybody is. But we've just heard two announcements have come out of the White House since that incendiary bust-up. One was the White House stressing no deal has been signed on Ukrainian minerals. In other words, don't make the mistake of thinking that we have skin in the Ukrainian game. That's what that message is. And the other one that's just emerged, Errol, which is absolutely blockbuster stuff, this has been confirmed. We assumed that in a huff Zelenskyy had stormed out of the White House and cancelled the press conference. The White House has just confirmed that in fact he was ordered to leave the White House by Donald Trump's team. Amazing, amazing. So first of all, your thoughts on the entire situation. Kind of changed the dial, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I think the what you really have to focus on here is Zelenskyy. Zelenskyy knew the parameters and the actors and the metrics and the situation going into this. He has top advisors all around him, and he failed to read the room whatsoever. It might sound like a small thing, but if he had shown up for the first time in any of our lifetimes, seen him wearing a suit as opposed to dressed like a cartel member, then perhaps that would have started off on a better foot. But from the initial point of vantage, Donald Trump sees it as disrespectful. Just as like, I'm going to come on your show and I'm going to speak to you and your viewers. I'm going to wear a suit and a tie because I respect the seriousness of the discussion. Zelenskyy doesn't respect the seriousness of the White House to that point. So it started off at a bad point. And then you saw a huge ideological difference through the body language. One thing I want your viewers to focus on was there was a point where Donald Trump was talking about the deaths on all sides, how mothers and fathers are losing their kids in this war. And he was including Russian mothers and fathers. And Zelenskyy was getting visibly agitated. And then he said, yes, they invaded our country. They took in our country. And yes, he should be, Ukraine first. But he was totally not getting on the wavelength of Trump, who was looking at this as he wants a peace deal. So Zelenskyy came in there. He came in there very bellicose, and it was almost like when J.D. Vance challenged him publicly and saying, well, hey, you haven't done this, you wouldn't have this, and Zelenskyy came back and started to, be very hostile. And I think that type of disrespect, and also little things, when he said, I'm not playing cards, and Trump said, yes, you are playing cards. You absolutely are playing cards. You're playing a very dangerous game that could result in World War III. You need American support, and we don't feel that you've been a maybe the best actor. And so I think one thing to take away here is that the United States of America and the Ukrainian nation do not need, Donald Trump and Zelenskyy don't have to be the presidents for these people to work together. So we'll have Trump, but if Zelenskyy is replaced with somebody else, it doesn't mean that it's the end of the relationship. It just might mean that Zelensky's not the guy going forward. He doesn't seem to be able to understand the room, and he doesn't seem to understand that Trump is only about peace. He's not about leverage and trying to push things back. He wants to end the war. And so until Zelenskyy gets on board with that, you saw some recalcitrant tweets at the end. Getting thrown out of the White House, though, that's pretty tough. You saw the people who went to the White House under Joe Biden. They didn't get thrown out, and they were much less respectful of the office than Zelenskyy was. I think ultimately the rhetoric was what held him back, and a lack of respect for some of the protocols that Donald Trump appreciates. Something that Keir Starmer did very well, read the room, showed up, had an excellent I mean, comparatively excellent experience in the White House. So I think it just points to Zelensky's lack of gamesmanship. This was a really poor performance by somebody who needed to be on the top of his game.
Yeah, now I'm sort of on your side, Errol, but I'm with my friend and colleague Pete Barnes, political strategist, who's on the other side of the fence. Pete thinks he'll chime in a minute, trust me, but he thinks that this is all. That Trump's just being a blowhard and in fact will not withdraw support from Ukraine. He's just trying to sort of threaten, cause chaos and somehow force some kind of peace deal. The last element of that, I think there's no doubt he wants to try to force a peace deal. But what he said to Zelenskyy was, you better make a deal, and you better make a deal fast or we're pulling out. Pete doesn't think America will. What do you think?
I'm inclined to agree with Pete here, especially. Well, this might be the short-term media sort of time scale. When you look at the deep collaboration we have with so many different parties, and just the Five Eyes relationship that's involved globally for this. When you look at the strategic resources, I mean, one thing that people don't think about, in the east of Ukraine, where Vladimir Putin has been successful, there's roughly estimated $20 trillion of minerals. Okay, so let's say he's lost 500,000 soldiers. That's $40 million a head. People who are dictators, who actually do this stuff and do this math, they have no problem with throwing those kind of bodies at a situation when there's that kind of money online. I promise you, if it was half that, Vladimir Putin would shoot his soldiers in the back of the head to make $20 million per head. So you're dealing with a really serious, I mean, it's brutal because people don't realize what trillions are. I mean, it's trillions at stake. And so that's why I totally agree with what Pete's probably arguing here, that we're too entrenched to be able to just blow this all up. But in the short term, maybe we will indicate that we will a little bit.
We'll bring Pete in just a second, but another point I want to make to you, Errol, is we had the Sun's excellent defence editor, Jerome Starkey, on the show earlier, and he's in Ukraine right now. So he's been sounding out what the reaction of the Ukrainians is to what happened in the White House. And they are stunned, shocked, and they feel betrayed. But what you're saying is that, perhaps don't take Trump completely literally when he sort of threatens to say you'll be on your own unless you sign this deal, that in fact American support will continue.
I think it will, and I think also he was probably bolstered by Keir Starmer coming over and very openly committing that the UK would be willing to commit troops. And Macron, behind closed doors, has said he's willing to commit troops. And potentially Olaf Scholz and I guess they replaced him. I don't even know who's in charge of there anymore. But these people will commit some troops.
Mertz.
And so
it's a guy called Mertz.
Oh, wonderful. Let's see how long he sticks around. Hopefully he's qualified.
Yeah, undoubtedly not. So, Pete, what do you want to say? Come on.
No, okay, so first of all, on the issue of him not wearing a suit, this is image, this is PR, this is what Zelenskyy has been doing for a long time. That kind of green khaki, I'm a wartime president, is all part of the image that he's been able to put out there. It's the same way that Donald Trump had the MAGA hat. Donald Trump is just as obsessed with image as Zelenskyy is. So yes, it is a little disrespectful, but you've got to understand the bigger picture, that Zelenskyy looks like he's still at war. Because this is the one thing that, listening to Jerome, who was on the ground in Ukraine, he's talking about, though, like a wartime medic field hospital, where the people are coming in and they're bleeding. And Zelensky's point is that it's not Americans dying in the fields, it is Ukrainians, it's his people. He's fighting this fight in a way that I don't think Donald Trump and any other country can really understand, because it's not their people. It's not that America doesn't have skin in the game. It's that it's not American kids dying in the streets. And that's the point why Zelenskyy has come at this in the way that he has, is that he's seeing the point where he's saying, like, wait a minute, we're all supposed to be allies. We're all supposed to help each other. I'm being attacked by a tyrant, and you're saying you're now quibbling over the price of milk? It was one of the great American presidents that said that when your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't quibble over the price of water. That was Roosevelt to get America involved in World War II. It was one of the most important speeches, and I tell you now, it cemented the great relationship that we have. But Trump, I do think there is a bigger plan. I think that it is about bringing Zelenskyy to heel, to show that he's not in control.
Yeah.
It's about scaring Europe half to death to get its act together, and I think that's worked perfectly. But I do think there is also a bigger plan here, and I think you're bang on with the minerals rights and all these kind of Five Eyes, and the fact we're so ingrained with each other that, you know, this idea they're just going to pull out is nonsense, but it's the threat. And the thing that kept peace, and the thing that kept everybody else at bay between 2016 and 2020 was the threat that you didn't know what he was going to do. And that's Trump theory 101. You keep guessing, you keep them guessing, you keep them on the toes, they're not going to make a move. And that's what he's doing here. And I think it's a big gamble. And I mean, like, he might be playing cards, but Trump's, you know, playing just as much of a dangerous game, I think, as Zelenskyy
I think what we got going on here, Errol, I think that, you know what Trump is. I mean, this is the way he goes about business. He's a disruptor. He causes chaos, but he's got a plan. He emerges from that chaos with a dealing strategy. You know what he's like. I suspect that this bust up at the White House was a little bit more than he'd planned for, but I do think that he wanted to give Zelenskyy a dressing down. So I think Pete's probably right. There's a game plan here, and they probably, you know, we shouldn't assume that Trump and Zelenskyy will never speak again. There will be some kind of rapprochement, would you estimate, in the days to come?
Yeah, I think so. I think there definitely is. And I think one thing to keep in mind also is that both leaders were obviously playing to their own domestic audience.
That's a
Zelenskyy
good point.
Was very strong. I'm here for Ukraine first. I'm not going to concede anything here. And that's what he should be doing. And Donald Trump always says that. You should be your country first. So Zelenskyy was very directed at that, and then you saw how Trump, especially using JD, I mean, that was red meat for the domestic base in America who's been very frustrated. Maybe they're not political sophisticates who tune in every night, but over the last 3 years, they've seen, you know, things go in a direction that they're not happy with, and finally seeing some dressing down or whatever. I think that plays well. So I think we might have been looking at this in a geopolitical perspective, and this meeting was actually two players playing domestic politics, and that's gone over everybody's heads.
Yeah,
so,
interesting. But I do think, you know, he had a plan, but I don't think he planned for this.
Yeah.
It was a bit more than...
Can I just chime in really, really quick? I think, Errol, you've hit the major point here. It's interesting how Israel, Gaza, and this incident in Ukraine has had such an impact on domestic politics, like nothing we've ever seen in quite some time. You know, this kind of... We're all involved, we're all talking the good game, but then the impact that it's had on political parties, candidates, the positions of certain bedfellows and all the rest of it is absolutely fascinating, and it's something that I don't think our politics is ready for. And I have to admit, I think that's a really, really important point, is the domestic politics aspect of all of this.
Agreed. Now, Errol, last question. When do you think you're coming back?
I'm aiming for end of April.
Yeah.
I'm aiming for end of April right now.
We are so going to have a beer, you know, because
absolutely.
we've never met. I've only ever known you in California, and you're supposed to live in bloody London. But
I know.
Anyway, when you get back, I'll buy you a drink, but we'll talk before that. Thank you so much for sparing the time to talk to us. That's Erol Morkoç from the Republican Overseas Organization. He's been stuck. Well, that's not true. He's from California. He went there for Christmas. He had a car crash, and that's why he's stuck there, because he's injured. He's had surgery and stuff, and he's not allowed to fly. But he's been coming on the show a lot. Listen, we're going to go to break now.